So here, another episode of Fintech Corner. We got a special guest. All our guests are special, but this one's extra special.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah.
So we'll open it up. I'm guest host, Brett Turner, founder and CEO of Trovata. Our guest today, Greg Fortuna with State Street, who runs all of the GlobalLINK products. So maybe just a quick intro first, and then maybe we'll just kind of jump into some topics.
Sure. So Greg Fortuna, I run GlobalLINK, which is our collection of electronic execution, clearing, analytics platforms at State Street. We specialize in cash products, FX, ETFs, fixed income clearing, so multi-asset class solution used by institutional investors.
Well, if you think of, well, first off, I mean, it's public, it's out there.
Yep.
We welcomed you guys as part of our investment team. So we're excited about that.
Yeah. It's exciting for us. You know, I think the companies align well. I think the what you guys are doing in the space is very complementary to what we do in the space. So it's a nice, complementary arrangement. I think you guys have an amazing ability to grow going forward, given how you're attacking the market. So I think we're very excited about the partnership and then about what we can do together within that partnership.
Awesome. Yeah, us too. I think just that, having the alignment we've already had, we've been partnering for a while to kind of make that sort of vested interest now, and also just, that much more support to see how we can innovate together and kind of take the partnership to the next level is going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got, pick your poison, lots of hot topics right now. You've got, maybe just digging in a little bit on AI. That's, if you kind of think of now ChatGPT, that wave 2.5 years ago when that really hit and got momentum, people dipping their toe in the water, what this even means for corporates, for corporate governance and security, and kind of a lot of like hands off, don't touch this.
Yep.
Starting to get more acceptance. And all of a sudden now you have, you look at the application or through more AI agents that people are talking about. Now you have within, even corporate treasury talking about like, hey, we could actually use this. We know we have lean teams.
Yeah.
Like, let's put this to work. How can we solve a lot of these problems? So maybe a little bit about like, from your perspective, from clients or even within the bank, like how has that, just that momentum of AI and what that can mean to lots of different things, how has it really changed over the last 6 months, a year?
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of a journey. So it starts with data. And I think that was, we talked a little bit last year about the data and automation. And I think that's the foundational layer for AI, is getting the data into a place where clients can actually put that AI layer on it and release the agents and do that aspect of it. And I think it went from sort of data to the large model learning, a lot of that aspect, which was like the precursor to AI. And now we're in an exciting sort of time where we're starting to see AI be deployed not only on the development phase, where you can actually use it to deploy releases and things like that, but we're starting to see it in the front office with our clients, right? So clients are now utilizing it. And I think, and we chatted a little about this beforehand, I really see AI as a complementary piece to the human element versus a replacement of the human element. So we're already doing some things in this space where we sort of we have a TCA platform in our space, and so we call it decision augmentation, where we're just helping our clients make better decisions, more informed decisions, and that's how we're doing it. And I think that'll be that first marriage. We're seeing it in places like QA and UAT, the 4I principal check, 6I principal check of days gone by, of the way that maybe I initiate a payment and you have to then approve it.
Yeah.
That's what we see an application for AI being that second layer to recheck the work and make sure that everything's good and have it go out the door. So
nice.
It's exciting. We're seeing it a lot. I think the adoption rate's going to continue to just skyrocket over the next couple of years.
Are you feeling like demand is kind of starting to pick up from people asking about it? Like there's real...
I think demand's been there. I think acceptance is picking up.
Okay.
Like that's the difference. You get all the buzz and all the talk, but nobody really does it. And then once you start seeing people do it, and I think, some of the big players that provide the AI agents, the Microsofts, the Googles, that's helped with the acceptance because those are already approved in a lot of the shops that we do business with and a lot of the treasury centers. So it's easier to deploy. Whereas maybe a couple of years ago, it was smaller places that weren't through procurement, weren't in these places, so it was harder to deploy.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit easier to people to get comfortable with it and deploy.
Well, if you think now, and just the technology landscape, I mean, you look at all the GlobalLINK products, and I mean, you had the start of some key products in
Yep.
that, in those journeys, like developing those.
Yep.
So you've kind of covered the gamut there, but so you can understand how it can have that effect on the product journey. But if you look at more broadly in the industry, I mean, there is a lot of, legacy tools out there. Some tools that, on here, we're at AFP on the show
Yep.
floor, that it's like that's been around for 40 years or
They're
something,
ripe-
like,
they're
right?
ripe for some change.
Right. So if you kind of look at even adopting it, and if companies maybe are a legacy system that might not be easy to adopt that, and yet the demand is there and acceptance is there and starting to happen, how do you think that starts to kind of collide? Or I mean, how are you maybe foreseeing that the adoption of, like, it's almost like the haves and have-nots? What can adopt, or who can adopt it? What technology can adopt it? What can't? Maybe how's that?
Yeah,
Any thoughts on how you see that playing out?
Look, I think you guys are a great example of it, right? So you guys saw when you first came in, you saw an area in the market where there needed to be more automation, there needed to be more intelligence and more data, collection, and you filled that void. And I think that's what you're going to see with some of these legacy platforms. There's still a ton of manual work, a ton of manual setups, a ton of people are doing things on older tech where there's 100 different deployments to 100 different clients, and that support structure and all of that. I think that's ripe for someone to come in with a more modern platform that they can come in over the top with an AI layer, help with deployment, help with integration, and just roll things out much quicker.
Yep.
And all of it is going to lead to getting data faster and more reliably. That's the key, right?
Yep.
And we can all get every system out there, however, it could be 40 years old, it can get data, end of day.
Yep.
They all can do it. But if I need data now,
Yep.
and I need to make a decision now, and I have a cutoff coming up, and I want to know my investable positions, those are the ones that are going to be the systems of the future. Can
Yeah.
I get that information quickly? And that's where the data and the AI and all of that's going to really
Yeah.
kick in. I think it's speed and it's intelligence that just doesn't exist in a lot of these legacy platforms.
You also think in a lot of the customers you have are really big companies.
Yep.
And if you think of the complexity of these companies across departments, I think maybe some of the legacy systems that might, we're kind of in the final innings of cloud, maybe that tends to be more, whether it's insurance or finance or some of these classic industries, but maybe other areas have already kind of gone through a tech wave and gone through a lot of,
Yep.
modernization. So with that, data across the company and this whole data readiness story with companies, if they don't have their data together in a lot of ways, and you try to use AI, like, do you hear this from some of your clients? It's just like, you might want to use AI, but if your data sucks,
Correct.
like, how's that
It
gonna?
has to be the foundational layer.
Yeah.
There has to be a journey to get it into a data lakehouse or some format or some function, or use a third party to pull that together. That's, people think sometimes the larger clients are going to be the more sophisticated, and in a lot of cases that's true, but in a lot of cases that's not. Now you've got this large unwieldy shop that's been around for a long time. It's got dozens of different platforms, data scattered throughout that process, different controls, different levels, and so that's the difficulty. Sometimes we see the smaller guys, they're much more sophisticated and nimble than the larger guys because
Yep.
it's easier. If you're building a house now from scratch, it's going to be a modern house. If you build a 1780
Yeah.
house and you try to modernize it, it's going to be
Yep.
it's hard, right?
Yep.
It's hard to get the wires through
Yep.
those old walls, and so I think that's what you're seeing in these data journeys.
A little bit of a leveling the playing field a little bit with,
yeah, absolutely. And there's still a lot of work to be done, but I think that data layer people have largely started the work on and finished the work on, which should set the stage for that next area. But
Do you think when folks are starting to, again, using ChatGPT a lot, or others that are just and being a lot more comfortable using on various things within that might not necessarily be your focus of what you do day to day, but it might be other related or ancillary kinds of things that you might be using for. Do you think also if what you're doing or AI can't be rolled out and developed in some of those technologies, that we might see, if you think of like the early 20 years ago, you use spreadsheets for all these workarounds. And you say, yeah, what is your workflow?
Yeah.
Well, I use this system, and then I use this system. Well, like, what are you doing in between that? What's like connecting the dots? Well, this spreadsheet, and then this spreadsheet.
Yep.
And you got all these little workarounds, and like really the system is like a collection of a few different
and it
spreadsheets.
was very linear. It was all linear integration. You did step 1, you output a file, you reformatted it, you uploaded it into step 2.
Yeah.
You did your work, and that was the way. There was no
points of failure there.
correct.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. No inefficiencies whatsoever. And there was no concept of like a contextual sharing.
Yeah.
Like when I do this, these 3 systems need to know about it.
Yeah.
And I need to make that available in real time. That didn't exist, right? You couldn't blast that. You couldn't put that out to the 3 systems simultaneously. You went in an order, and that order was very prescriptive. And if you had to make any changes that order, it was large regression tests and all of that. I think what you're seeing now is the ability with the new technologies to do something in one part of the ecosystem and have that deployed and cast to multiple other parts simultaneously.
Yep.
And that's where you can start to get complementary products. Your set of products, our set of products can work seamlessly, together in real time versus the old days of let's output a file and let's put it over here and let's go
Well, and
down
if over the years, if we've got like even the proliferation of SaaS tools, lots of different SaaS tools, then lots of different subscriptions, drives the CFO nuts because it's kind of like setting up for, you got Netflix and Disney Plus and all these, and like, oh, I'm paying for all these things. In some ways, like in the business world, the CFO deals with the proliferation of all these tools, and they're paying for it.
Yep.
But
And
it
the
seems like it's almost like many of these sort of were very point and maybe took out one of that spreadsheet that was the workaround. And so now you got all these tools kind of filling those gaps, and it's maybe a different kind of collection, which is better.
Yep.
But then now, if you're going to use AI, and if it's not being adopted differently or not being adopted at all in somewhere in those chains, are some users actually going to return to, again, workarounds using AI and kind of back to this, kind of fractured collection of systems in some ways? But
I think that, sometimes people overcomplicate simple tasks.
Yeah.
Right? And that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
You think about the robots that they spend all this money to lift a thing and move it 2 feet when
Yeah.
we can do it a lot easier.
Right.
So I think it's determining the right things to deploy the AI on.
Yeah.
There are certain things that make perfect sense to deploy AI on. It's not
Yeah.
broadcast everything, right? You're not
Yeah.
trying to eliminate
Right.
the treasury teams and eliminate the humans. You're trying to augment them with better information, more informed decision making.
Get more leverage.
More data faster. And so I think from that perspective, as long as the focus stays on the right things, then you will be able to deploy it in the right places on the right, aspects of the chain. Then I think it works. And I think there's a much more openness to the build by partner than what there used to be. 15 years ago, everybody built in-house.
Yep.
And even though there's a huge amount of sort of worry and concentration, rightfully so, on cyber and risk and all of that, I think there's much more trust to bring in third parties that have already built something that works and can be deployed seamlessly and efficiently on the process. And so I think you're going to see that more and more. I think you're going to see more pieces be from different providers, but as long as they have to tie together seamlessly, so you don't end up with a hodgepodge of Frankenstein, that something breaks and you don't even know which vendor, you don't know where it broke, you don't know how, because if you have automation without information, you got a black hole. Right? And that is a problem. And so if you just automate everything and then something breaks, where did it break? Is it in your data layer? Is it in your AI layer? Is it in your integration layer? Which vendor is it? Having that ability to track things throughout the process in real time, again, marrying the human with the AI agent, et cetera, that's going to be the key.
Well, if you look at it now, you think of, there's always been this balance of kind of optimizing yield. Obviously, liquidity comes first, and then you optimize yield. But now, if you can get a lot of cash flow intelligence a lot easier, now more agentic ways to kind of even drive much greater precision, even on top of what was already there. And then if you can get really precise and yet not add any risk, now you could probably tighten things up. Like, is that opportunity? Do you kind of see that with the State Street of how that's, I mean, you would think that the benefits are going to be coming your way for that.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, there's, everything's got a flip side to it. Obviously we're a large bank, and so there's other aspects to it. But absolutely, people are trying to get, more and more again, more and more real time. And I think part of that whole data layer coming into the real time format eliminates a lot of that inefficiency, right? And it gives people the ability to optimize. If you don't have the information, you can't optimize and make the right decisions.
Right.
So the more information that you can get, the more information that you can make real decisions on, the more that you can optimize your entire portfolio and not worry about overdrafts and not worry about, breaks and other things that may occur. So from that perspective, I think that's the journey we're on. We're all on it. We're all trying to give clients the best options. And you're seeing different options that have popped up. We've got some of the newer stuff, the stablecoins and all of that.
Yep.
Excuse me, that are coming into the market.
Yeah.
That are even going to open up more possibility, because now you're not going to be within just the fiat time frame. You're now talking about a 24/7 cycle. That opens up a whole different world.
So,
excuse me.
I was actually trying to. You said stablecoin before I did.
I know.
So I don't know.
I get myself in trouble before you get me in trouble.
It's all right. No, I won't get too deep on it, but I mean, just maybe the high level observations. One of the observations I made, and actually is one of our one of our other investors, our VC investors, was how, because he asked about stablecoins, and I'm like, isn't it odd that nobody seems to be talking about stablecoins?
Yeah.
Is it kind of a taboo topic right now? Like, you think across the board, or is everybody just kind of like bracing for, okay, what does it mean? And we still need to figure that out a little bit. But you think like with the Ripple acquisition of Treasury, with stablecoins coming, I'm sure right now Money 2020 is happening. They're probably talking a lot about it. I guarantee you there.
Yep.
Like, but it is kind of eerily quiet a little bit from that. But maybe thoughts about this, what this might even mean to the space, or, to the business, or what?
We'll bring it up a notch, right? The holy grail is 24/7 settlement. The ability to move things at any point globally in some modicum of either fiat currency or non-fiat currency, but something that something that holds value. That would be the holy grail, right? So that I can run a 24/7 book, hand it off seamlessly between locations. If I'm a global corporate asset manager, doesn't matter. I want the ability to be able to do that. That gives me infinite possibilities around collateral. It gives me around payments, all of that. It takes a lot of the risk out of the equation. And so there's various ways that people are looking at trying to get there. Stablecoin being one of those, right? I think it'll disrupt some industries and some players, and I think the adoption rate will be different. I think governments will get involved, because it also is going to affect fiscal policy in a big way, because the fiat market is largely controlled by the governments and interest rates and all of that. And so there's a lot of questions around what does this mean for that relationship if you have something that's maybe not as linked, directly. How does that all play out? So I think everyone's going to walk a little bit slowly, but it's going to be one of those where it's going to be you're walking along slowly, and all of a sudden, boom, it's going to pop. And so we're all preparing for it in different ways, and making sure that we're including it in our future builds and what we do from a market perspective. So when it's going to pop, when the adoption, I mean, who knows?
It's going to be fascinating how it all kind of plays out. Yeah, for sure.
That was in the beginning of the money fund industry, and people talked about it forever, but they all stayed in deposits, and they didn't. And then all of a sudden, within like a 24-month period, it was like boom, and it took off. So this feels very eerily similar to that, where everyone's looking at it, everyone's saying, "Oh, this would be really great. This would add a lot of value."
That's a good point, because you don't even think about that inflection point. Because now it's just like it's all just
it's normal.
This is the way it is.
Yeah.
But back then, when
I was setting up my booth at the AFP by myself out of the back of my Subaru, right? That's awesome. It was totally different.
Yeah.
And you were explaining a lot of times what a money fund was and what Rule 2A7 meant and why it was T0 and how you could use it. And now you don't even think about that. It's part of the fabric, and I think you'll see that. I mean, we'll be sitting here 5 or 7 years from now, and it'll just be part of the fabric. And we'll talk about it like it's been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
So just a question of when and how it gets there.
Yeah.
But
no, that's great. Well, anything that what are you most excited about? Anything? I'm probably a lot of things, but anything in particular that?
Yeah. I mean, I think partnerships like this, investments like this. These excite us. We're definitely open to doing more. We don't believe that one player like a State Street is going to build everything from scratch anymore and do that. And so we are looking at best of breed across the industry. And there's a lot of exciting, players out there. There's a lot of exciting things. And I think we can definitely have a 1 + 1 = 3 sort of situation, and we've seen that already
Yep.
in our relationship, and so that excites me because we've now built tech on our side to make it seamless so that we can work together with a client and make it very easy for them to adopt that and do that. That's very different from what it was a few years ago, where we had our tech and you had yours, and maybe there was an old integration, maybe an API, maybe not, maybe file based. That's all gone, and so that opens up a world of possibilities. I think that's great, and I think people are much more open to this than what they were a couple of years ago. And I think the technology that we're bringing, the change is so quick that it's just that's probably the most exciting for me. You don't have to wait 2, 3, 4 years for adoption. It's 2 months, 6 months, a year. I mean, look how different we are
it's
now.
accelerating for sure.
Yeah, from a year ago.
It feels almost even kind of top down. And that's kind of how cloud came.
Yeah.
My last startup was in cloud, and it initially was like nobody's ever going to move critical workloads into AWS.
Yep.
It's not enterprise grade.
Yep.
And that all kind of just crumbled down. Everybody moves. Nobody's managing their own data centers. And I think it started to come to where it's going through the boardroom, the CFO. It's kind of top down to the CIO and saying, if you don't have a 7-year plan to start moving things, getting out of data centers into AWS or Azure or these hyperscalers now, then like you're kind of on the hot seat. So I think in some ways too, some of this is coming down. AI, in particular, like they want the benefits of those. So
and you're starting to see it rolled out in the bigger shops.
Yeah.
Just on day to day, you scrape my inbox and tell me what I have this week.
Yeah.
And that early adoption, those simple tasks that are doing, I think that gets everyone comfortable with, hey, wait, this is really powerful.
Yeah.
This just saved me, 2 hours of going through my inbox because I'm at a conference and I can't read the 1,000 emails.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the type of kind of
Don't
eye-opening.
inbox.
But that's the eye-opening sort of moments that people go, wait a minute, how can we deploy this on QA and UAT, and how do we deploy it in Treasury? And and I think you're starting to see that, and those use cases are popping up everywhere, and it's exciting.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for being on Fintech Corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate the conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thanks.